Fever with Arthur Shappy. Today, Fitton. Hello, hi, it's Arthur Shappy here. So, the big news this week is I have invented a new way of reading. Yeah, not completely new way. I mean, not using my nose or something, but, well, look, the thing is, I've been doing loads of reading during the lockdown because I've got all of Granny's old books here in the Granny flat where I'm staying. But the problem is, I've kind of read all the ones I want to read now, and I'm left with the ones like War and Peace and John Major's autobiography. And they're not, I'm not saying they're not good, they are good, I'm sure they're good, it's just they're quite hard to read. You know, your eyes sort of slide off them. So, the books I've really been enjoying, though, are the Sherlock Holmes stories. They are amazing. I love them. He really reminds me of Douglas. But the thing is, I've read all of them now, and, you know, I know who did it in all the stories, so I can't read them again. So, this is what I've invented. It's a way of making up completely new Sherlock Holmes stories. So what I do is I start off reading the beginning of a Sherlock Holmes story, but then when I get to the end of a page, instead of turning the page like you'd normally do, what I do is I go to a page in one of the books I'm having trouble finishing. And I read a bit of that, and then when I get to the end of a page in that one, I move to another one, and so on and so on. And then I start making my way back through the books, and I end up back at Sherlock Holmes, and I read the end of a story, and it makes a completely new adventure that no one has ever read before. Now, I will admit that the stories don't always make a lot of sense, but the good thing is you almost never guess what's going to happen next. So look, I'll just show you. Here's one. It was early in April in the year 1883 that I woke one morning to find Sherlock Holmes standing, fully dressed, by the side of my bed. He was a late riser as a rule, and as the clock on the mantelpiece showed me that it was only 7:15, I blinked up at him in some surprise. "Very sorry to knock you up, Watson," said he, "but I have burglars locked in the cupboards and a sleepwalker in my bedroom." Miss Theobald listened to Mamselle's tale in the utmost astonishment. She got out of bed and put on her dressing gown. "I think, before I telephone the police, you should show me where you locked these men up," she said. Mamselle trotted her off to the cupboard. There was no sound from inside at all. Miss Theobald was puzzled. She rapped on the door, and then Miss Theobald suddenly heard the unmistakable sound of Ian Duncan Smith. Ian was Norman Tebbett's successor as MP for Chingford. He was sharp-toothed and bright-eyed, with a keen prosecuting intellect and a strong right-wing ideology. He was also fiercely ambitious, with an enormous broad mouth and a head that is almost half the size of the entire body. He presses his snout into the egg clump and immediately attacks if another fish comes near. It has always been a mystery where lumpsuckers go in the winter. One theory is that they do not move very far from the coast, but live in rocky areas where there is virtually no fishing, while another theory is that they go to Paris. Natasha gazed at them and was ready to cry, because it was not she who was dancing that first turn of the valse. Prince Andrew, in the white uniform of a cavalry colonel, wearing stockings and dancing shoes, stood watching these men abashed by the Emperor's presence, and the women, who were breathlessly longing to be asked to feed on the millions of sand eels which emerge from the bottom as it becomes light. Quite recently, the Danes have been investigating the biology of the lumpsucker by tagging several thousand in the southern Kattegat. Recapture showed that the first summer after tagging, the lumpsuckers wander about, apparently at random, hunting for food and voting in support of the Single European Act. Worse was to come. 2 days later, on the penultimate day of the conference, Margaret Thatcher published an article in the European, a now defunct newspaper, in which she claimed that the second formers were having a midnight feast, which she had forbidden, and one of them had locked her in this beastly cold bathroom. "I want to report them, Miss Theobald. I know they held a feast, and there's a most important match tomorrow, and I demand that the girl who locked me in shall have her head beaten in by the repeated blows of some heavy and blunt instrument." "God help us," said Holmes, after a long silence. "Why does fate play such tricks on poor helpless worms? I never hear of a case such as this, but I do not think of Baxter's words and say, 'There, but for the grace of God, goes Sherlock Holmes.'" And there it is. That is the brand new adventure of the dancing lumpfish that locked Margaret Thatcher in a bathroom. Brilliant. Bye.